Shanti Mantra on page 134 of Universal Prayers. This book has all the prayers. 134 on the top of that page, first one, and the English translation is on 135. This stanza, this sloka is from Chandi. Chandi is also, it has three names. Common name is Chandi. Another name is Durga Saptashati. Saptashati means 700 verses. So called Devi Mahatmyam, the glory of the Divine Mother. This Chandi is a part of the Markandeya Purana. So I'll chant this one. Om Ya Shri Swayam Sukritinam Bhavaneshvalakshmi Papat Manam Kritadayam Hridayeshu Buddhi Shraddha Satam Kulajana Prabhavasya Tam Tvam Natasma Paripalaya Devi Vishwam Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. O Divine Mother, you are the good fortune itself in the dwellings of the virtuous, and you are the ill fortune in the hearts of those who are sinful. Thou art intelligence of the intelligent, faith in the heart of the devotee, and modesty in the highborn. We bow down to thee. O Divine Mother, protect us, protect this universe. Om peace, may there be peace and joy in our hearts. Adhyatmika Shanti, may there be peace and harmony amongst all beings. Adi Bhautika Shanti, and may there be peace everywhere in nature. Adi Deyika Shanti. This month later, we'll be celebrating Navaratri, the 9 days festival, worshipping the Divine Mother Durga. And during this season, it is customary for devotees to chant the hymns from the Devi Mahatmya. Now let us continue our study of the second chapter of the Gita from where we left. Last time we were studying the sloka number 70. This chapter 2 has 72 slokas. The 70th verse, we began studying that one. Let me chant verse number 70. Apuryamanam atala pratishtam samudramapa pravishanti yadvat tadvat kamayam pravishanti sarve sashanti mapnoti nakamakami. That person achieves peace into whose mind objects of desires enter as waters flow into a full and stable that is being filled. Not that person who seeks pleasure from sense objects. Such a person cannot achieve peace. Right in the beginning of this section, in sloka number 54, Arjuna asks this very important question in 254. What are the qualities of a Sthita Prajna? Sthita Prajnasya ka bhasha, that sloka. And Sri Krishna, Bhagavan Krishna begins to give the answer to this question, describing the qualities of a Sthita Prajna from sloka number 55 onwards. The very first quality that Sri Krishna mentions of a Sthita Prajna is this, the ability to control desire. There he says, Vihayaka, there he says, Prajahati yada kaman sarvan parthamanogatan. First line of Shloka 55, where Sri Krishna begins description of a Sthita Prajna. What is the first quality? Prajahati yada kaman sarvan manogatan. Kaman means desire. Manogatan means the desire that arises in the mind. Sarvan kaman, all desires that arise in the mind. Some are good, some are bad, some are in between, some are very bad, all those things. All kinds of desires come to the minds of people. Generally, an ordinary person yields to the desires. When a desire comes, that person, without thinking of the consequences, tries to fulfill the desire. And then what happens, we have seen. When you fulfill the desire, then it becomes stronger and demands more. And a stage will come when you cannot fulfill the desire, then it turns into anger. That sequence of events that we have seen in Shloka 60 to 63. That's what the ordinary person does without thinking. A person should think when a desire comes. What kind of desire is this? Is it worthwhile fulfilling it? If I fulfill it, what are the, how much happiness it will bring? What are the consequences? It may bring me happiness now, but later down the road it may create unhappiness, or it may bring me happiness to me, but it may make other people inconvenient. It may cause adverse effect to the environment, to animals, plants. All those things we have to think before fulfilling the desire. Impulsively, if you jump to fulfill the desire when it comes into the mind, then it is the wrong thing to do. A Sthita Prajna does not do that. Sthita Prajna examines when the desire comes. Before fulfilling it, what are the consequences? Should I do it or not? Such a person can handle the desire in a proper way. That's a very important quality of a Sthita Prajna. That is mentioned here in the Shloka number 70. Here, the Sthita Prajna's mind is compared to an ocean. An ocean is a vast expanse of water, and a huge infinite quantity of water is there. And into the ocean, many rivers come and join, empty their waters. Though many rivers come and join the ocean, ocean does not become disturbed. It remains stable and calm. In the same way, a Sthita Prajna's mind, like an ocean, remains calm, no matter how many and what kind of desires come to the mind. Just like an ocean, he remains calm. He is not perturbed by desire. He will handle it. He knows how to handle desire, he or she. Sthita Prajna. That quality is very important. Desires comes to everybody's mind, but we should know how to handle the desire. The Sthita Prajna is one who knows how to handle the desire, conquer, control the desires. If they are good desires, if there is no harm in fulfilling them, if it helps other people too, then we can fulfill the desire. Good desires are there. If the desire is bad, we should not do it. We should replace it with a better desire. So all these things are described in the earlier shlokas from 55 to 72. Here, apuryamanam achalam, achala pratishtam. Achala pratishtam means the ocean remains unmoving, stable. Yadvat apaha pravishanti, just like many, apa means rivers. Apa means water, water means rivers. So many rivers come and join the ocean, it remains unperturbed, calm. In the same way, tadvat yam sarve kama pravishanti, that person whom all the desires enter that person's mind, who can control it, saha, such a person, shantim apnoti, achieves peace. Na kama kame. Kama kame means a person who desires sense pleasures. Such a person, na shantim apnoti, cannot achieve peace. Here, what is the meaning of shanti? That we have to see from the commentary. Shanti means, general meaning of shanti is peace. The kind of shanti that Sri Krishna is talking about in the 70th verse is not ordinary peace that we are familiar with. When something is and everything is going on all right, nothing in particular is bothering us, we are peaceful. But that kind of peace that we generally experience is not permanent peace, because next moment something will happen that will disturb the peace. There's no guarantee if I am peaceful now, that will be peaceful in next hour in the evening. That kind of peace is very unstable, highly conditional. Everything being all right, then I am peaceful. If something is bothering me, I'm not peaceful. That is not true peace at all. In Vedanta, peace means Shashwat Shanti, permanent peace, unconditional peace. No matter how many disturbing situations one has to face, in spite of those disturbing situations, if a person can remain calm, that is true peace. Whether there is happiness or unhappiness, pain or pleasure, praise or blame, gain or loss, none of these things should have any effect on the Sita Prajna's mind. Unconditionally, independently, one must be always peaceful. That is true peace. That kind of peace is meant here. In the commentary, Shankara says, Shanti moksham apnoti. Shanti means moksha. Shankara here translates Shanti into liberation. That kind of Shanti is not ordinary peace. A person achieves liberation when a person can control the desires that come into the mind and remain unaffected by the desires. Such a person eventually achieves liberation. Shanti apnoti means moksham apnoti. Shankara says. That is the quality of Sthita Prajna. So we should all learn how to control desires. In the 7th chapter, Sri Krishna is going to speak about dharmic desires and adharmic desires. Certain desires are adharmic. Adharmic means not conforming to dharma. Desires which, when fulfilled, may bring pleasure to the one person, but later that desire, that fulfillment of the desire may cause harm to that person and to other people. Other people, animals and plants. Something may bring me happiness today, but if it creates trouble tomorrow to me or to others, then that should not be fulfilled. For example, I give an example. Supposing a person has a desire to eat pizza, ice cream, all those things, tasty things, and if that person does not control the desire, goes on fulfilling a desire, what happens? In a short time, that person loses health. If one person loses health in the family, other people will be affected too. Not only that person who becomes sick will be affected, but other people connected with him, related to him in the family, in the workplace, they will be affected, that person, by that sickness. So we should see the consequences. If it brings pleasure now, will it bring unhappiness, pain tomorrow to me, others? That kind of analysis has to be done. In sloka number 25 in chapter 18, you don't have to make a note of it unless you are interested, just listen. 1825, Sri Krishna talks about 4 things everybody has to think about before doing any work, not only fulfilling desire, before doing anything, before saying a word, I must think of these four things. What are the four things you have to think about? Anubandham, consequences. I'm going to say this. How will it affect me and the listeners? It may, if my speech causes pain, embarrassment to the listener, then I should not say such speech. Shayam, second thing. First is consequence, me and upon me and others. Shayam means loss. When I do some action, I will necessarily there will be some loss. Any action will entail loss. There is no action which can happen without entailing some loss of time, energy, material. Some of this will be lost. Is that loss justifiable in doing this action? If it is, then we have to do that one. If not, we should not do that one. Anubandham Shayam. Himsa means injury, violence. My action or speech, does it cause violence, injury, harm to other people, animals, plants? That I should think before doing the action. Fourth thing we have to think before doing any action or saying any word is paurusham. Some people in a fit of great enthusiasm start huge projects without thinking whether the person has enough resources, material knowledge, know how to complete the project to its logical conclusion. Do I have the material? Do I have the knowledge? Do I have the ability to complete this project? Enthusiasm start everything big, but then that soon enthusiasm wanes and the project remains incomplete. Then go to another project. That should not be done. So a person who knows how to handle desires, such a person is a Sthita Prajna, and we all have to practice the control of desire. Very important quality of a Sthita Prajna. It has come several times before, it will come again also. Now we go to shloka number 71. Same thing about controlling desires. Vihaya kamanya sarvan pumam charati nispraha nirmamo nirahankaraha sashanti madhigacchati. Vihaya kamanya sarvan pumam charati nispraha nirmamo nirahankaraha sashanti madhigacchati. Sarvan kaman vihaya. Vihaya means giving up. All desires. Sarvan kaman vihaya. Nispraha, free from hankering. Yaha puman charati. That person who lives. Charati means moves or lives. That person who lives, controlling all the desires and free from hankering for various things. Whatever comes as a result of our effort, with that we should be happy. In the famous Shankaracharya's famous Bhajagovinda Stotram, I'm sure all of you have heard about it. There, Shankaracharya says, a person should remain content with what earns with one's own effort, dharmic effort. We should not make money by illegal, immoral means. In a dharmic way, whatever money we make, with that we should be happy. We should not hanker for more. That kind of contentment is very necessary. Nispra means free from hankering for things that one does not have. So many things other people have, I don't have. I want to have that. That is hankering. That should not be there. And whatever you can with dharmic hard work, honest effort, with that you remain happy, enjoy that, and be content. That should be that is the instruction. Yaha Human, that person, Sarvan Kaman Vihaya, giving up all hankering, all desires, Nispraha, free from hankering, Charati, lives, moves about or lives. Two more qualities. Nirmamaha, nirahankaraha. Free from the notion of mine and I. Mama means mine. Mama means mine, Amara. Nirmama means not mine. Now, we should think about this calmly when we have some time. What is really mine? It's a very important question. We rarely think about it. We say, this is mine, this house is mine, the money is mine, the child is mine. We say things, this body is mine. We say things like that. But we should think, what is truly mine? You'll be surprised at the result. If you think deeply, you discover there is absolutely nothing that I can call mine. Everything has come as a result of our karma with the help of other people, and everything will go sooner or later, including the body. To say this is my body is also, in the Vedantic sense, it is a mistake. For convenience, we say my body, my house, my son, my child, my job. We can say that for conversation, but really we should know nothing is mine. Really nothing is mine. Sri Ramakrishna gives this example of a maid servant working in a big merchant's house in big city. She lives there in the servants' quarters. She refers to the master's children as my Rama, my Hari, my garden, my kitchen. She says like that in conversation. She cooks food for the master's family in the master's kitchen. She refers to it as my kitchen. I cleaned my kitchen this morning, she says. But she really knows it is not her kitchen. She really knows it is not her house or not her children. So we can say for conversation purposes, this is my house, my child, my job, my body, but we should know nothing, there's absolutely nothing that belongs to me. Only one thing belongs to me. What is that one? The karma we do, good and bad things we do. They go with us. Nothing else goes with us. So we own only one thing, our karma. The result of our karma will come back to us later also, if not in this life, next life also. That's only one thing that goes with us. Nirmama means, Ishita Prajna never says something is mine. If you read the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, you never see him refer to himself as I. Not even once. You know how he would refer to himself? Here or this. In Bengali, Ikankar. He says Ikankar means of this place. Never he said mine. I, mine, never. Same as Ramana Maharshi, never said mine. That is, they know nothing belongs to them. Nirmama means in the second line, verse number 71, we should mentally give up attachment to things. Physically, we can say, keep things, we need things for living. We have to have a place to stay, we have to have some money, we have to have some clothes and food. Those things are necessary, we keep them, but not with attachment. Inwardly, we should give up attachment. That is nirmamatva. Nirmamo bhutva. This has come before, it will come again, nirmama. Nirashir nirmamo bhutva. Yujyasya vigitadvaraha, it came earlier. Another quality is nirahankaraha. Aham means I. Referring to this body and mind, thinking this is I is the is ego, that is avidya, ignorance. The body and mind are not I. I means real self. That is very difficult to understand. We really are conditioned to think from birth that this body is I and this mind is I. So Jnani never makes that mistake. Jnani says, I'm not the body, I'm not the mind. But body mind is there. They are there. So what are they? They are like the garments I'm wearing. I'm the person wearing the garment, but I'm not the garment. That came in sloka number 22 in second chapter. For a Jnani, the body and the mind are like what the garment is, dress is for ordinary person. I don't never say I'm this chadar, I'm not say I'm this jacket. I know they are mine, I'm wearing them, but I'm not them. Jnani thinks like that. Body, mind, and they are not me. They are the upadhis that are come to me because of karma, and they will go away. I am the self. I am the Atman. Aham Brahma Asmi. That's a very high state of awareness. It's hard to get there. But in the meantime, we can say this is all given to me by God as His gift to me because I wanted them. One thing we have to remember: nothing, absolutely nothing, comes to us except as we have desired them. Unless I had done something to desire the body, it would not have come. I had done some karma, had some unfinished desire, that's why the body was given. If we did not have any desire, the body would not be there. No purpose for it. Body has come, children have come, job has come, money has come, relatives have come, all because I wanted them. If I don't have any desire, nothing will come. I'm free from all upadhis. So desires are there. That's why all these things have come. We can keep them, refer to them as mine in conversation, but inwardly we should know Nirhankara, I am not this body mind. These things don't belong to me, they belong to God. Bhaktas thinks they belong to God. Sashanti Madhigachati, such a person who practices inward detachment. Inward detachment towards object and experiences and work and possessions and body. Such a person, Saha Shantim Adhigachati. Again, Shanti here means Nirvana Kyam Shantim. Shantim Sarva Samsara Dukha Uparama Lakshanam Nirvana Kyam Adhigachati Shantim Apnoti. Shanti is defined in more clearly in this verse by Shankaracharya in the commentary. You see, Shanti Madhigachati, Adhigachati means achieves. Such a person who becomes free from attachment and egoism and gives up all desire, such a person achieves peace. Peace means what? The definition of peace here is Shantim Sarva Samsara Dukkha Uparama Lakshanam Nirvanakyam Shantim. Samsara means cycle of birth and death. Samsara Chakra, cycle of birth and death. We are born now, and if you don't do anything, you'll be born again, you'll be born again. You were born before also, many times. That cycle of birth and death is called samsara. Samsara. Samsara, dukkha. In every birth, we suffer a lot of suffering. You hope you'll get happiness, but suffering will come. Samsara, dukkha. Uparama. Uparama means peace, freedom from suffering in every life. Such a peace which makes us free from suffering in every life, this life and in future lives. Such a peace, nirvana khyam shantim, is liberation that a person will achieve when a person becomes free from all desires, from all attachment, from egoism. Three things: free from desires, free from attachment, mama, not mine, and free from egoism. When these three things are practiced, a person achieves liberation from the suffering in all lives, from the suffering in transmigratory cycle. Transmigratory cycle means life after life. Punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam, punarapi janani jathare shayanam. This cycle should be stopped. We should put an end to. Otherwise, it will be continuing. That is Shanti. And means to achieve that Shanti is to control desires. The desire control of desires comes very many times in the Gita. Most important discipline. Now we go to the last verse. Esha brahmi sthiti partha nainam prapya vimuhyati sthitva syamantakalephi Brahma Nirvana Mritchati. Esha Brahmi Sthiti Partha Nainam Prapya Vimuhyati Sthitva Syamantakalephi Brahma Nirvana Mritchati. Yesha Brahmi Sthitihi Partha or Arjuna. This is Brahmi Sthiti means, literally it means status of Brahman. Sthiti means status. Brahmi means of Brahman. That means Brahmi Sthiti means Brahmani Bhavam Eva Yam Sthiti. That doesn't help. The status of Brahman, that means becoming one with the divine. The divinity is within us. Everyone, same divinity is present in all. That's going to come again many places in the Gita. As Swamiji said, each soul is potentially divine. That divinity is in every one of us, in animals, plants too, but in potential form. Now, what happens is when we do all these disciplines described from 55 onwards, or at least many of them, if you practice, what happens? We will experience the divinity, which remains in us but hidden from us. We're not experiencing it. We will begin to experience our divine nature. We become one with the divine. That's Brahmi Sthiti. Aham Brahmasmi, Aham Brahman, Upanishad says, but that remains unknown to us. When we do all the disciplines of Chitta Prajna, we experience our divine nature. We become one with the divine, like the river becomes one with the ocean. Giving up our limited individual existence with pain and pleasure and limitations, giving up all those limitations, we become established and become one with the divine presence within us. We become the divine Brahmi Sthiti. That is the result of practicing all the disciplines and qualities of Sthita Prajna described in this section. Enam Sthitim Prapya, by reaching that stage, Navimuhyati. Enam prapyam na enam prapya vimuhit. Na is hidden there. Na enam. Navimuhyati. A person will not fall into the domain of delusion, ignorance again. As we saw last time, once you achieve that self-knowledge, there is no more going back to the domain of ignorance. We'll never again make the same mistake. That I am the body and the mind. Again, make the same mistake of suffering and enjoying in so many lifetimes. We have become permanently established in Brahman. We become one with Brahman, united with God. That is the result of practicing all the various disciplines. At least some of them we should practice. Asyam sthitva antakalepi. Asyam is in this state, Brahmi state, Brahmi sthiti. Antakalepi means not at the necessarily last moment. Antakal means last moment. We should not wait until last moment. We don't know when what will happen in our last, whether it will be conscious or not, whether it will be in the hospital or in our room, where will be, how death will come, when it will come. There's no way to tell. So we should not wait until then. We should do it now. Antakalepi means, Shankara says, Antakalepi antye vayasi api, even in the advanced age. Preferably in the earlier ages. Spiritual practice has to be done earlier in our life. Later it becomes more difficult. Body becomes old and difficult to practice spiritual practices. When one is young, in relatively good health, that is the time to practice spiritual disciplines. Antakalepi asyam sthitva, staying in this Brahmi sthiti, even at the later stages in our life, Brahma Nirvanam Richati, a person achieves Brahma Nirvana. Brahma Nirvana means, again, moksha, liberation. Moksham Richati Adhigachati. So that is the end of this second chapter. Before we begin the third chapter, I want to say two things. When you finish one chapter, we should never think we have finished Gita second chapter. That's not the case at all. It's a continuing lifelong study. Gita study never ends. Sri Ramakrishna says, as long as we live, so long we learn. The learning never ceases. So we should go back to the second chapter again and again, even when we do the later chapters, and review what we have learned. So to do that review, there are certain there are certain shlokas in the second chapter which I think are very important, and I'm going to point out to them now. And we should come back to these shlokas many times during our Gita study. Here in the second chapter, the first message that Sri Krishna gives to Arjuna is the message of strength. We saw that before. That is sloka number 2 and 3. Chapter 2, sloka numbers 2 and 3, they contain a very important message. Same message which is in the Upanishad, Sri Krishna gave to Arjuna. And Swami Vivekananda liked these two slokas, 2 and 3 in second chapter. He said they contain the essence of the Gita. Message of strength, fearlessness and strength. Arjuna, Sri Krishna asks Arjuna, from where these weaknesses come upon you? Kutastva kashmalamidam vishame samapasthitam. In this critical juncture, right in the middle of the battlefield, when everybody is set to start the war, at this juncture, when you are supposed to manifest your maximum prowess, at this juncture, vishame samapasthitam, this weakness has come from where? Kutaha. You have this weakness. Klebyam masmagama partha. Don't yield to this unmanliness. This becomes totally uncharacteristic of a great hero like you. If an ordinary person becomes afraid when seeing the Kauravas 18 division, then that is understandable. But Arjuna was not an ordinary soldier, known to be extraordinarily great warrior. For him, such weakness is unbecoming, totally uncharacteristic. Laibyam masmagava partha etatvaya na upapadyate. This is unbecoming of you. Shudram madhya dorbalyam tyaktva, giving up this silly faint-heartedness. Uttishta parantapa, stand up and be strong. So those two shlokas are important. And then we skip a few. We go to shloka number. There are several shlokas. All of them are important. I cannot say anything is not important, but because we have limited time, some shlokas we have to pay special attention to. So shloka number 13 onwards, they describe the nature of the self, Jnana Yoga. And then Nasuta Vijate Bhavo, shloka number 16 is very important. 13 onwards, especially 16, Antavante me Deha, Jnana Yoga portion, the 20th verse is 5-star verse, comes in Kathopanishad. Nature of the Atman is described there. 21. Long commentaries there. Until about 30. 13 to 30. That segment is contains Jnana Yoga, the nature of the Atman. And Sri Krishna says, you are not the embodiment, you are that Atman. That Atman is infinite, eternal. It has no birth, it has no death, it has no old age, it has no suffering. Najayate mriyateva. It does not take birth, it does not die. That segment 13 to 30 is the Jnana Yoga portion of the second chapter. Very important. Then there are other arguments for 38 is a key shloka. 38 is the message of equanimity. Equanimity comes many times more in the subsequent chapters, but 38 applies to everybody. You have to practice it every day. Every day we get opportunity to practice equanimity, because in a family life and work life, other places too, always something will happen that disturb our peace of mind. Somebody will say something which we think is not right, or something will happen, or we become sick, or Some problem will happen more or less every day. Generally, in everybody's life, that gives a chance to practice calmness. You have to remember 38 when something unpleasant happens. You should not become immediately upset. Let me see what Sri Krishna said. Let me remain calm. Sukha dukhe same kritva. 38 is very important. Sukha dukha both will come for everybody. Sometimes sukha, sometimes dukkha. That is inescapable. Sukha dukkha same kritva. Remaining calm. Sama means equal. In sukha and dukkha. Labha alabha same kritva. Sometimes we gain. Labha means gain. Alabha means loss. Sometimes we gain, sometimes we lose. It may be property, it may be money, it may be time, it may be reputation. Whatever comes, whatever goes, I remain unperturbed. These are coming and going things are not permanent. Anything that comes and goes is not permanent. So I'm not bothered about it. If it comes or goes, same to me. Same kritva. Jaya ajayo same kritva. Jaya means success. Sometimes you do something, you succeed. Sometimes you don't succeed. I do my best, success, failure, I remain calm. That's a very important message of equanimity in sloka number 38. Then we skip a few slokas. Not that they are not important, but in limited time, we have to focus on the important slokas. 47, 48. Very, very important verses in the second chapter. They contain the gist of Karma Yoga. Karma Yoga will come in chapter 3, 4, and many chapters. The summary of all Karma Yoga in a nutshell is given in 2 slokas, 47, 48 in second chapter. So I request that you study these 2 slokas in great detail again and again. There, Sri Krishna says several things which we have to practice. One thing is karmanyeva adhikaraste. Te adhikaraha karmani eva. In doing our karma, we have some control, some jurisdiction. Ma phaleshute adhikaraha. When it comes to the fruit of work, we have no control because the result of work is not determined by what we do alone. Other factors besides my effort come into play and shape the outcome of our work. Sometimes we say I did so much hard work, put everything into it, but still it did not succeed. We become unhappy. We did our best. That is what we have to do. Our duty is to do our best. But success or failure depends not only upon what I do, but so many other factors like what other people do. That also affects the result of our work. Then what can I do? I've done my best. So whatever comes, success, failure, I'm going to accept it. I've done my best. That's all we should do. Ma phaleshu te adhikaraha, no control. For example, in a workplace, you are doing your best work. You put in the best effort. But with the person that works with you, if he does not do his part well, that affects your work also. Your work also will not succeed because he did something or did not do what he was supposed to do. You have done your best, then what can you do? You can't change other people's attitudes. And that other person may not be in your place at all, maybe in some other country, your co-worker. In this time of globalization and outsourcing, work is done by different people in different countries, same project. So we don't know who that other person is, who did part of your work. You have no control. You know what to do. So many things happen. I can give many examples, but we have discussed that. So we do our best, and whatever result comes, good or bad, after having done my best. Failure should not be because of I did not do anything right. My part is done best. That's all I can do. Sometimes other natural calamities happen. Work will suffer. How can we control those things? Now, for example, a farmer's example I gave. A farmer works very hard, sows the field and puts the seed and fertilizer, and rain does not come in time, or too much rain comes, a crop is washed out. then what can the farmer do? Done his best. We should not stop doing this work. That is also mentioned. Mahate sangostu akarmani, may not take recourse to inaction. We should not say, since I cannot control the result of my work, why should I bother to work? That won't work. We have to do our best. There, our responsibility stops. Result is not in our hands. Remaining calm in success failure, that comes to Sloka 48, 47, 48, two verses. In 48, Sri Krishna says, two things we have to do when we do many work. One is Sangam Tyaktva. Second thing is Siddhya Siddhyo Samo Bhutva 248. Giving up attachment to karma, karma phala. I've done my part and that's there my part ceases. Whatever happens is not in my control. Siddhya Siddhyo Samo Bhutva. Siddhi means success. Siddhi means failure, which happens when we cannot predict, we cannot control. Sama Bhutva, remaining common success and failure. When we do some work, two things we have to notice. Any kind of work. I'll give you some examples. When you do some work, two things have to be noticed. One is we cannot predict what is the outcome going to be. Accurately, we cannot estimate. We may hope this will happen, that will happen, this much will happen at this time. But accurately, we cannot always predict what happens. Second thing is we can't control the outcome. Unpredictability, uncontrollability of the result of work is a fact that we have to reckon with. I give one example. I gave this example before. Supposing you are a parent and you have 2 or 3 children. If you give the best possible upbringing, a loving home environment, very caring parents, work very hard to bring the children nicely, give them good health care, education, opportunities, everything you provide. But how they grow up is not in your control. They may exceed your expectations and succeed in life better than you had expected. Or one child may not do anything and may go fall into bad ways, and you have done your best. You could not have done anything more or better. Still, one child succeeds, another child does not succeed. Why it happened? Why you become unhappy? I did everything I could. Can't think of anything that I could have done more or better. Still, the child did not succeed. That sadness will come. The result happened like that not because we did not do anything, done nothing on your part, no, nothing wrong done on your part. The child's bad previous karma, every child brings its own karma to play out in this life. We all do. We were born with our prarabdha karma. We have to go through that. If that child's prarabdha karma is such that it has to do that, then you have no control. Even the child has no control. What is prarabdha karma? Prarabdha karma is old karma that is bearing fruit now. It has begun to bear. That nobody can control. We all have to go through our prarabdha. So you have no control. What happens? You did your best. So what can you do? You have to say, I've done my best. Rest is up to the Lord. The fact the failure happened because some other factor which was not in your control. You could not have done anything to prevent that one. Therefore, what is the lesson? Siddhya Siddhyo Sama Bhutva. Remaining equanimous in success and failure. Samatvam Yoga Uchyate. Yoga means Samatvam, equanimity of mind and success failure. These two slokas, 47, 48, you have to practice them, and life will give so many opportunities every day to practice equanimity and success and failure. So those are key slokas, 47, 48. And then we go to then the last segment, 55 to 72. After 47, 48, 55 to 72. Very, very important part in the whole of Gita. What do they contain? Sita Prajna Lakshana, qualities of a Sita Prajna. Arjuna's question was in 54. Arjuna's sloka 54. Arjuna asked, what are the qualities of a Sita Prajna? Sri Krishna's answer is from 55 to 72, end of chapter. Very important part in the whole of Gita. Many people memorize this particular segment of the second chapter. We have to study them again and again. At least some of those qualities, all of them is difficult to practice for all of us. At least a few of them that Sri Krishna mentions, you have to practice in our daily life. That is those are the key shlokas in the second chapter. So please study the chapter again, at least the key shlokas again and again, and we'll continue our study of the third chapter now. Look, chapter number 3. Third chapter is very interesting chapter. The concept of yajna comes there. Yajna comes in chapter 3 and 4. Atha tritiyodhyayah. We'll begin that chapter with the shloka number 1. Arjuna's question. This chapter begins with Arjuna's question. Arjuna uvacha jayasi chet karmanaste mata buddhir janardana tatkim karmani ghore mam niyojayasi keshava. Arjuna uvacha jayasi chet karmanaste mata buddhir janardana tatkim karmani ghore vam niyojayasi keshava. O Arjuna, O Krishna, Keshava, O Krishna, if your view is that knowledge is superior to work, why do you ask me to undertake this work of war? No, Arjuna's doubt is like this, question is like this. In the previous second chapter, many slokas, Sri Krishna asked Arjuna to fight. And he said, you have to get up and fight. Many times, Arjuna, Sri Krishna forced or persuaded Arjuna to fight in the war. And later on, he is going to say, karma is binding. When you do some karma, result will come and you have to experience the result of karma, then you will have to go through the karma phala again. Look, karma is not good. So that mixed message comes in the Gita. It appears like mixed message. What is true? Karma or jnana? Karma, the path of karma or the path of jnana? Which is better? That question comes. So Arjuna becomes confused. What should I do? Sometimes you ask me to undertake work, do karma. Sometimes you say karma is binding. It is confusing to me. What is the, give me one clear answer. Otherwise, I am becoming confused. That is Arjuna's question. We'll see the answer that will become very clear. And the second sloka is also the same question. Question continues in 2 slokas. We'll finish the second sloka. Yamishrene vavakyena buddhim mohayasi vame tadekam madanischitya yena shreyohamapnayam. By the words that appear confusing to me, you create confusion in my mind, as it were, O Krishna. Therefore, please tell me one thing definitely which I have to do. The question is whether karma or jnana. And the answer comes from shloka 3 onwards. We'll do shloka 3 and then stop there. See Bhagavan Vacha. That gives the answer. Brief answer in one shloka question is given. Why mixed messages are there? Why sometimes Vedanta says you have to perform all actions? Some Vedanta says karma is binding, you should pursue jnana. So you should say Aham Brahmasmi. There is no karma for Brahma. Which is the right thing to do? That confusion. Sri Bhagavan Vacha, shloka number 3. Sri Bhagavan Vacha, Lokesmin Vividha Nishtha Pura Prokta Maya Nagha Jnana Yogena Sankhyanam Karma Yogena Yoginam We'll study this in detail next time. But briefly, this sloka, Arjuna Sri Krishna's answer is Asmin Loke, in this world, Divida Nishtha, two kinds of disciplines. Maya Pura Prokta, by me they have been prescribed. I have prescribed, Bhagavan Sri Krishna says, I have delineated two paths, two kinds of Nishtha, two disciplines. What are they? Jnana Yoga and Sankhyanam. Sankhya means the people who believe in Viveka, Atma and Atma Viveka. We will discuss the details next time. Sankhya means those who are Jnana Yogis. For them, Jnana Yogena. Jnana Yoga means rejecting I am the body and the mind, thinking I am the Brahman and free from action. No karma phala, Brahman. Taking that position, this Jnana Yoga. Very difficult, for not suitable for majority of people in this Kali Yuga. Karma Yoga and Yoginam. Majority of people are Karma Yogis. Because we all have to do karma, we cannot remain free from karma, even for a short moment that will come. So we have to do karma. Through karma alone we can achieve jnana. That how to do that will come in the 4th chapter. So Sri Krishna himself has said, I have prescribed two paths. For some people who are fit for Jnana Yoga is the path. For majority of people, Karma Yoga is the path. What are the differences? What is Jnana Yoga? What's Karma Yoga? We will describe. We'll study that next time. On this sloka number 3 has a lot more hidden in it. We will study that next time. Now we shall stop here, and we have a couple of minutes. If you have any questions or comments, we can do that now.
And one of the things that you talked about today are near the end of the 2nd chapter. That it's not mine. But this is a real problem in our real life, because when someone asks you, introduce yourself, to the folks, like you have a meeting, we say the dean and others, and you're supposed to say exactly what you are.
Yeah, this is my work. You have to claim, otherwise somebody else will claim your work.
But the problem is, somebody continues to say who I am, and dean would say, okay, he is this person. And because I thought this is egoistic to talk about yourself or to say something, right? Yeah. So how do you exactly do it? I mean, are you saying that you should say it outside?
Yeah, but you feel it inside. Otherwise, what happens especially in workplace, you work very hard. But unless you claim it as my way, unless you put your name on it, somebody else will put their name on your work and they will get the credit, they will get the promotion. That happens a lot in workplace. So you have to claim, you have to say, I did this work. You have to say that one, I did this work. Otherwise, it will be trouble in workplace, especially in this present society. And there, Sri Ramakrishna's example will help us. For conversation, Vyavahara means business. For Vyavahara purposes, we have to say I and mine. You have to say this is my house. Otherwise, in India, if you don't put your name on the house, somebody will take your house and say they claim it as mine. So you have to say mine. You have to say I did this work. For Vyavahara purpose, for outside business, otherwise in this country will be cheated everywhere. That is okay. My Rama, my Hari, my garden, my kitchen, the lady servant says. Otherwise, how will she refer to that house, that garden, that children? But inwardly, you should say, none of this, mine, all belongs to the Lord. I tell you how I practice this one in my life, how I practice this one. I don't own anything because I have taken sannyas and I don't own property, nothing. That's okay. I am staying in the Vedanta Center, huge building. Some of you may have seen that one. Prafuladi, Tungadi, they all come. They know what a beautiful, nice building it is. And in this building, I have been given a room by Swami Atmajnani, our head Swami here. And I refer to the room as my room. I refer to it as my room. I say in my room on my desk, Gita book is there. Like this, I refer to that as my room. Otherwise, how will I refer to that room? There is no other way to refer to the room unless I say my room. But when I say my room, I know it's not my room. I didn't build it, I don't own it, it's not mine at all. But how else to refer to that? In the same way, you refer to your work as your work in workplace, and you can say my child, my job, my money, my house. You can say that one, but inwardly I know that does not belong to me. Inward detachment. Sri Ramakrishna's practice inward detachment. Outwardly, you can say mine. So it is inward discipline. Detachment is inward discipline for householders.
70 plus. I am now in Banaprastha. But what about our children or grandchildren who are growing up? How do we explain to them that, yes, you try hard, but you have to accept the result, whether it is good or bad? So
they will know. They will know. Even when they are students, they will know in sports or in studies. If there is a group project, 4 children do the same project. In high school, they have group projects. College, they have design projects. Group 4, 5 children work on the same project. They will very soon know from their own experience that even if one person does not do the work properly, the whole team will suffer.
yeah,
So success failure depends not only on not one person does, but on what other people do. Sports also same thing. In a team, the team is as strong as the weakest person in the team. Unless it's a one person sport like weightlifting, then only one person is responsible. But if other group sport like basketball or cricket or baseball, one person may be a very good player, but the other people, one other person does not play, then the whole team will lose. So that they will learn from school onwards. I can tell them, you do the best. Result is totally not under your control because the result depends upon what other people do also.
yeah.
That message you can convey to the children.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anand.
Maharaj, in 71, when Krishna is talking about Nirmamo Nirahamkaraha in the context of Sthita Prajna, and in chapter 12, he also talks about in terms of the person who is dear to me. There also he talks about Nirmamo.
I was going to say the qualities of a bhakta in 12th chapter. Chapter 12 is Bhakti Yoga. In 12th chapter, 20 slokas are there. From 13 to 20, in those 8 slokas, Sri Krishna described the qualities of a bhakta. Almost exactly same as Sthita Prajna qualities in 2nd chapter. So they are not different. Different approaches. Bhakta says everything belongs to God, nothing is mine. And he says, I am not the body, so what is mine? One body is not. It's a different, same idea comes in. Shall we say closing prayer now? If you have more questions, let me know. Send me email or call me. I'll be happy to discuss as much as I know. Let me say the closing prayer now. Okay, Devi. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah. Sarve Santu Niramayah. Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu. Ma Kaschid Dukkha Bhag Bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May all be happy. May all be free from suffering. May all realize what is noble and auspicious. May no one be subject to misery. Hari Om Tat Sat. Sarvam Shri Ram Krishna Arpanamastu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat. Sarvam Shri Ram Krishna Arpanamastu. Thank you all and stay well.